Today, we are almost going full throttle with our 6.2 liter twin turbo 4-wheel drive Silverado. This thing, it is a handful. It's a lot of fun, even on low boost. We have a few problems, and then we're immediately gonna tear it back apart. Now, the last time you saw the twin turbo, we had just taken it out for its very first test drive, which is a huge milestone. I was extremely happy. It's like being on top of the world. But that joy was kind of short-lived, because as soon as we got into boost, we noticed it started to lean out because I suspect a fuel delivery issue. The pump is just not large enough. Now, to confirm that, I decided to install a fuel pressure gauge, which I always install gauges and stuff. I like to keep an eye on the engine, but when I tightened the sensor down on the rail, this very rail right here, I twisted it off. I did try to weld it, which you can see there, but I just had a little crack that formed around the outside, and I'm like, you know what, let's just call it. I don't want to be chasing cracks and welds and have a potential fireball on my hand. So the week was over. We just called it quits at that point. Now, since then, I have found another OEM fuel rail from a guy parting out an Escalade on Marketplace. So we got the engine put back together with an OEM rail, and I did not try to reinstall the pressure sensor over there. Instead, I just mounted it to the regulator, which is probably where I should have installed it in the first place. Now, also, since you saw the truck last, I have received my larger fuel pump. That was the other thing we were waiting on. But before I just jump right in and install it, I want to go for one more test drive because, one, it's just a lot of fun, and number two, I just want to observe the drop in fuel pressure, and then we can tear the truck apart. But mainly, number one, I want to go for another test drive. It's like it just wants to go. I'm trying to hold back on the throttle. It just wants to run. Brakes. It's actually holding more than I thought it would. I mean, it is a 340 liter power pump. They do say it's good for about 600-ish horsepower. So, who knows, maybe it is fine. It held pressure. In fact, it was climbing like the regulator wants it to. Good thing we have good brakes on here. Tell you what, instead, we're going to put a little bit of gas in and do a little more testing. All right, I threw a couple gallons of gas in the tank. Not too much, because if we have to drain it back out to work on it, I don't want it to be overfilled. But we're still logging. I'm going to try to do a little bit more enthusiastic rip and see what the fuel pressure does. Here we go. Fuel pressure held. Tires did not. Oh. Guys, I haven't done that since we had the ugly truck. Now, the bad part is, even though the fuel pump is holding pressure for now, we're on pump gas, not ethanol. So as soon as we switch to ethanol, the requirements for volume will be higher. And we're only on like, well, 8-ish pounds of boost. Oh, that is so fun. High compression 6.2, kind of crappy tires. Twin turbos, GTX 3582s. Oh, this thing is, oh man. myself off. So right off the bat, the major difference I noticed compared to this, an ugly truck, is where in the power band or the RPM range that it makes power. With ugly truck, it was like, hold on, 3,000 RPM, insane torque right there. But then as the RPMs went up, it just would fall off. This, decent mid-range, but like when the turbos come on board and it starts to rev up, it just goes and it wants to pull. I mean, now I showed 6,400 RPM on the log, but it's like, it feels so good up there. The only thing I don't like, which is just a weird thing to get used to, I guess, is on the ugly truck, we had a cable throttle body. So whatever your foot did, the engine did. Where this one, it's the drive-by-wire. And it's a weird feeling, because like, just the correlation between where your foot is and what the throttle plate does, it's strange. So we made a few changes to the calibration, or change the tune basically, most notably to the VE table to richen it up a little bit when we get into boost, and then to the spark table I did add a little bit of advance just as boost is ramping in to hopefully take away or reduce some of that lag, to just give it a little more power, because the way it's set up right now, I was very conservative with the timing table, so it starts to basically pull all the timing out before the turbos come all the way on board, where this way, just by advancing a little bit in the mid-range, we kind of keep some timing as the turbos are coming on board to basically give us better response, or that's the goal. So let's go find out if that's the case. Oh yeah, looking a lot better on the data log already. So much closer this time on the mixture. On the last run, we were about 20% correction or 20% lean. Now we're only 2%. So definitely moving in the right direction, and fuel pressure is still holding for now on pump gas. Like I said, we're going to turn the boost up. We're going to add ethanol, so we do need the bigger pump. But at least for now on low boost, like, I'm going to drive it. I want to drive it home tonight, in fact. Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Slow down. I definitely think this is gonna be a lot quicker than ugly truck. I bought this frame in 2022. 4 years ago. Now it's fast. Oh yeah, I just saw the pressure drop. Yep, definitely dropping. Which we suspected. It just has to be kind of quick. Okay, so that's solved. I'm gonna drive it home tonight just because, like, how could you not? And then tomorrow, we're ripping this thing apart to put the big fuel pumps in, and then E85, because it's already set up for flex fuel, and then more boost. And one more thing I just wanted to point out really quick. which is awesome. We've been kind of hot rodding it a little bit here. It's 90 degrees outside. Coolant temps with the AC on, only 205. Yes. A lot of guys put those little radiators in these turbo trucks to make it easier to do the intercooler pipes, and they're like, well, my truck's no reading. Yeah, no kidding. Full-size radiator, full-size fans, full-size intercoolers. A pain to package it all, but it works. All right, there we go. As tempting as it is just to keep driving and enjoying this truck, every time I step on the throttle and get into boost, I find myself watching the fuel pressure gauge, which I should be watching the road because this thing is pretty spicy, and feathering the throttle just to make sure we don't lose fuel pressure, run lean, and potentially damage the engine. So I just figured we'll quit while we're ahead. We'll just get the big fuel pumps installed because we know we have to do it anyway. So it's like your brand new toy, you got to work on it some more before you can really enjoy it. But here's what we've got. This is a 3 fuel pump setup, and I went back and forth like a lot, probably an unhealthy amount of time spent doing research on different pumps, whether they were the big single brushless pumps, multiple in-tank setups, the regular brushed external pumps. There's a lot of choices out there for fuel pumps, but in the end, that's what I settled on. And we'll talk about why we chose this particular one in a moment, but we just need to jump in and get it installed. And as you can see, the hole that it requires is larger than the one that's in the tank. So we need to do some cutting and welding. The pump setup that I settled on is a Deechworks triple pump arrangement meant for an 05 and up Silverado. And it has 3 400 liter per hour fuel pumps inside. Now, there's something that I learned in and amongst my obsession with fuel pump research, and the most common in-tank pump that guys reach for is a 525 made by Walbro. But the one thing I didn't realize is Walbro rates their 525 pumps at 0 PSI, where Deechworks rates their 400 at 43 PSI. So when you look at the charts, they're actually almost comparable, and at about 70 PSI, the DW400s actually outflow the Walbro 525. So right off the bat, I knew we were in business. The pumps are actually based on parts from Bosch, which is great, so we know they'll be reliable. But the other thing I really like about the Deechworks in-tank setup compared to some other pumps that are on the market is they have a basket or a sump of sorts that holds fuel around the base of the pump. So when you're doing hard acceleration or braking, the pumps are always submerged and you should not lose fuel pressure. Now, on my last several trucks with the stock tanks, anytime I had below like a quarter tank of the fuel and I did a launch of the drag strip, it would lose fuel pressure. It would just kind of stall and sputter for a minute and then it would recover. With the different shape of our fuel tank being much more rectangular and with the sump around the pumps, we should never have any fuel pressure issues. Now, the reason why we had to do some cutting and welding is because the fuel tank that I ordered was for a 99 to 03 Silverado with the smaller pump housing, but the pumps, they only make them for an 05 or 04 and up, so we just have to weld in the additional fuel pump ring for the later model Silverado. So we got the new fuel pump ring welded in, the tank is cooled down, I vacuumed it out, so we're all ready to go back together. Pretty happy with how the welds turned out, not the prettiest in the world, but the weird thing is we have both fuel tank rings in place for the late model and the early model Silverado stuff. I thought about cutting this one out and just getting rid of it to replace it with the other one, but I can't have the big pump here just because the way the hoses have to go around the shock mount. I couldn't really find a good clean routing. So we're just gonna leave this one in place to operate the sending unit, and this one is just gonna be for the pumps. Just sealing off these 2 ports where the wires would go through for the fuel level sender, mainly because I didn't like how close they were to the studs for the power to go through. What's the tap drill size for 1/4 inch NPT? 7/16. Simple enough. Subscribe, I like it. This is an ethanol safe pipe sealant. Well, progress has unfortunately screeched to a halt with a fuel leak. I've kind of fought this particular brand of hose a few times in the past, and I got them made up. I had one that leaked very badly. I replaced it, all new hose, all new fittings, and it still leaked a little bit on both ends, one on the return, one on the feed. So that was the last of the 10AN PTFE that I had. So I've got some ordered, but it's Friday afternoon and it won't be here till Monday. So that brings this week to an end. It was a good week. We had fun. This truck is a ripper. We are so very, very close to being able to actually get this thing like doing full throttle passes, maybe on a dyno, maybe to the drag strip. I have some new wheels and tires on the way for it to give it a little bit of a fresher look. But it's been one of those weeks. So, thank you guys for watching.